Hong Kong Columbarium will handle the body restoration works of slain socialite Abby Choi Tin Fung. The Post has learned that industry professionals have said the process is likely to be more drawn out, costly and complicated than expected. A source familiar with the situation said Po Fook Hill Columbarium in Sha Tin, one of the largest facilities of its kind in the city, would manage all arrangements for the funeral, which was also expected to feature Buddhist rituals. Choi's family has entrusted Po Fook Hill with the task of all the funeral matters, including the restoration works of her body, the source said on Thursday. All her family members, relatives and friends have been invited to her funeral ceremony. Her remains will be cremated. The vigil for slain model Abby Choi is set to take place on June 18. Photo. Instagram, @xxabic. The vigil for slain model Abby Choi is set to take place on June 18. Photo. Instagram, @xxabic. A Hong Kong Columbarium will handle the body restoration works of slain socialite Abby Choi Tin Fung. The Post has learned that industry professionals have said the process is likely to be more drawn out, costly and complicated than expected. A source familiar with the situation said Po Fook Hill Columbarium in Sha Tin, one of the largest facilities of its kind in the city, would manage all arrangements for the funeral, which was also expected to feature Buddhist rituals. Choi's family has entrusted Po Fook Hill with the task of all the funeral matters, including the restoration works of her body, the source said on Thursday. All her family members, relatives and friends have been invited to her funeral ceremony. Her remains will be cremated. Po Fook Memorial Hall in the Tai Wai area of Sha Tin. Photo. Sam Sang. Po Fook Memorial Hall in the Tai Wai area of Sha Tin. Photo. Sam Sang. According to an invitation seen by the Post, the vigil is expected to take place at Po Fook Memorial Hall on June 18. Her family is expected to book the entire funeral parlor for the service. It will be followed by a ceremony the next morning before the remains are taken to Po Lin Monastery on Lantau Island for cremation. On the firm's website, a standard Buddhist funeral package costs at least 47,000 Hong Kong dollars, 6,000 United States dollars. A salesman from the venue told the Post it still had space for bookings on the same day as the planned funeral. The gruesome murder of Choi came to light on February 24, when police found her skull, legs and some broken ribs in the ground floor flat of a 3-story village house in Tai Po's Lung Mei Chun. Despite widespread searches in a New Territories landfill in Sung Kwan O Cemetery, police did not manage to recover any other body parts. A source familiar with the funeral arrangements said the family studied the possibilities of using technology to recreate her face for the skull. Options included high-end 3-dimensional printing. Horace Sun Horan, chief technology officer of medical 3D printing firm Colm 3D Technology, said a lifelike, true-to-size model of a human head could be constructed. Multi-jet printers could be used after a 3D image of the head was produced, he said. Photos of the deceased and a 3D scan of their skull would be needed to create the digital model for printing, Sun said. While it was possible to produce a 3D model of a person's head from photos, the accuracy and detail would be reduced, he said. However, price and time needed could vary widely depending on the detail of the 3D recreation. If a company was to produce a life-size model of a disfigured deceased person from scratch, Sun estimated the entire process could take around 3 months, at a cost of at least 100,000 Hong Kong dollars. The workload needed for a figure like this would not be priced at just tens of thousands of dollars, as the cost for early-stage modeling would be very high. However, the printing work involved is not difficult, Sun said. The use of 3D printing technology to reconstruct faces for funerals is rare in Hong Kong, with families relying on traditional mortuary makeup because of concerns over cost and time, according to industry insiders. Experts detailed the more common practices after the Post learned Choi's family planned to use the technology to have her face recreated, allowing grieving relatives a chance to say goodbye at her coming funeral. Kwok Hoi Pong, chairman of the Funeral Business Association in Hong Kong, said the use of 3D printing to restore disfigured faces was unheard of in the city, although some families opted for tailor-made silicone masks. Current technology enables the use of silicone masks, but that's rare as it takes too long and funerals usually take place in a month after death. Kwok said. He said it would take a few months to produce a silicone face mask. Measurements of the person's head would have to be sent overseas, usually to Europe or Australia, for a mold to be made and cast into silicone. The mask would be put over the deceased's skull for an open casket viewing. Kwok, a funeral director, said costs varied widely, depending on the undertaker coordinating the process and the extent of the recreation of facial parts. A full face reconstruction could cost up to 6 figures in Hong Kong dollars, he said. Traditional mortuary makeup costs range from 1,000 Hong Kong dollars to around 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. If the entire face is gone, with only the skull left, then restoration would have to be done with this technology, Kwok said. If there's nothing left for the undertaker, it would be difficult to work with. Peggy Yuen, CEO of Make Omnia, a 3D printing solutions firm, said the technology it specialized in could produce body parts, but there were only a few companies in Hong Kong capable of bioprinting. The degree of resemblance depends on what kind of materials you use. It can be human tissue or animal tissue. The cost and time taken will depend on the materials used, the weight of the body part and its density. But most bioprinting in the city was for medical purposes in universities or hospitals, she said. Jay Zhe, owner of V-Print 3D Limited in Kwai Chung, said his firm had created body parts mostly for medical use, adding it could cost up to 5,000 Hong Kong dollars to produce a head using a polymer. The prerequisite for 3D printing the head is to have a 3D scan of the skull to get the data about Choi's skull structure. Without the data, it's impossible to construct her head with 3D printing technology, he told the Post. The material used for the head is usually a polymer and it would cost between 3,000 Hong Kong dollars and 5,000 Hong Kong dollars, depending on its size. It takes about 3 days of work to create the head. I usually take orders for medical purposes, rarely for funerals. Some funeral homes in mainland China have used 3D printing to restore the faces of the disfigured deceased. They scan photos provided by family members to build a 3D model, usually within 2 hours. A 3D facial mask is then made within a day using resin, plaster, silicone and fiber before undertakers apply makeup in a wig. Her former spouse, Alex Kwang Kong Kai, 28, his father, Kwang Ka-u, 65, and elder brother Anthony Kwang Kong Kit, 32, are remanded on a joint murder charge for allegedly killing the model. Kwang's mother, Jenny Lee Sui Hung, 63, who has been charged with perverting the course of justice, has also been denied bail.